Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya. Sim, thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. For those that will think this is an old video, this is not an old video. This video was done some days ago. And this man is asking, what is the liberal plan to stop fascism? I want you all to know that when they call liberal, they mean black people. When they call Democrats, they also meant black people. Now, I am going to say this. This particular young man voted for Jill Stein. It is always the audacity of people that voted wrong, always coming out to ask, what is the liberal plan to stop fascism? Was the fascism not straight up right in your face before you voted for Jill Stein? The truth is that some of you claim that you know politics, you understand politics, and you've been voting for a while, but still you all are not acting like people that know politics. On a very serious note, because if you know politics, you definitely will know that the fascism was straight up right in your face, and you all gave all your votes to him because they told you guys, if you cannot vote for Jill Stein, vote for Donald Trump, and he is all this pro-Palestinian movement and all that. See, let me tell you something. Some people, it looks like some people actually did not listen to Kamala Harris' campaign policies because her policy was very obvious. I followed both policies, right? Because I needed to see what the other person was offering and what this person was also offering. Jill Stein did not offer anything. And you people still voted for him. For her, I mean to say. And now you're asking what is liberal to end fascism. You know what? Let's get into this video.
I'm going to keep asking this question because I'm not getting a legitimate answer. What is the liberal plan to stop fascism beyond voting for Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential election? And I'm going to be fully upfront with you now. I'm partially making fun of you because I don't think that you actually have a plan, but on the other hand, I'm genuinely curious because I want this shit to end, okay? And to be honest, I am an advocate for voting. I voted in every election since I was 18. I believe as a human being, it is my civic responsibility to help out my community, not only through collective action and speaking up for the marginalized, but also in the ballot box. But I am not naive enough to believe that you can achieve liberation or stop fascism through voting in the current system that we have, okay? Because historically speaking, any rights that we have gained and any fascist movement that we have stopped has been solely through leftist, anti-fascist, and revolutionary action. You can keep playing in my comments talking about Jill Stein or lefty revolutions or whatever the fuck, but all that tells me and everybody around you is that you're a very unserious individual, and this is all just an ego thing to you with no real consequences, right? And you could be naive or stupid or ignorant, you know, but none of that really changes the fact that you are defending the Democratic Party at a time where it's historically unpopular and the voter base is clamoring for new leadership that actually represents them. And you are standing in their way of that. You understand me? You are a monster. You are deceiving people. And you are preventing people from finding community within truth. Is the liberal plan to stop fascism beyond voting for Kamala Harris?
I think I have a pretty good answer to this question. I think this question was asked in good faith to some degree, but I'm not really sure what he was trying to say towards the end of that video. As always, no hate, just trying to answer the question. First, I want to address something he said, saying that you can't vote your way out of fascism, and that fascism has always been solved by leftist revolution. That doesn't really seem to be the case. If we look at the most recent example of how a country overcame fascism, it literally did happen through voting out fascism. South Korea's President Yoon tried to impose martial law against his civilians, and to prevent Congress from voting on the measure, he tried to use the military to prevent them from entering the building. However, this didn't work, and they ended up voting against the measure. After mass peaceful protests from the rest of South Korea, they were able to shift public sentiment against President Yoon and eventually lead to his impeachment. I think this situation is going to be applicable to how we're going to stop Trump in the coming future. We're watching right now as Trump tries to declare martial law essentially against civilians by sending the National Guard to cities like LA and Washington, D.C. But if we look at LA, mass peaceful protests that are still going on to this day have significantly decreased the measures that Trump has used by deploying the National Guard. People of LA are standing up against ICE and the National Guard, and that's resulted in Trump backing down quite a bit. This is how we will need to handle these issues going forward. This has worked in the past. Dr. King is notorious for having a commitment to nonviolence. Not only was it a moral commitment, it was a strategic commitment as well. He knew that he needed to shift public sentiment towards his favor, and to do so, he used peaceful protests to demonstrate how crazy his opposition was. This is what's happening right now. These peaceful protests against Trump's unhinged actions sending the National Guard to these cities has shifted public sentiment against Trump. Like the civil rights movement, we have to convince moderates and politically uninformed people that we are the good guys in this situation. And yes, those people do exist. Not everybody is as politically informed as me and you. We also have to ensure that Democrats win as many state and federal seats as possible in Congress to stop the president. Because right now, there is no check on the president. The president is ignoring the two branches of government, even though he has a majority in both. He's the Supreme Court and both halves of Congress, but he has yet to pass any legislation besides a budget. So yes, part of the answer is to vote for more Democrats. You may say that they're trying to rig the elections in 2026, with what they're doing in places like Texas, gerrymandering the state. That's where I point out Gavin Newsom's plan to add 5 more seats to combat what's happening in Texas. This is a measure that Californians need to vote on November 5th. So this is another instance of why voting is important. Hopefully states like Colorado and New York, for example, follow suit with what Gavin Newsom is doing. Because Republicans will not stop with Texas, they will go to states like Ohio. If all else fails and the election is inevitably rigged in 2026 and Democrats aren't able to secure a majority in Congress, that is where we get to plan B in my mind, nullification. If you aren't aware, nullification is a process in which states basically reject the federal government and operate under their own sovereignty. This is their constitutional right to do so, but I'm sure it would be challenged in court if this ever happens. This is a last-ditch effort because if this happens, it will probably inevitably lead to a civil war, especially if Trump still has his cult-like control over the Republican Party. But yes, that is my liberal plan to stop fascism in the United States going forward. We need to survive these next 2 years. We need to continue to organize and peacefully protest in order to shift public sentiment towards our side. We need to vote like hell in the midterms to get as many Democrats elected as possible. If all else fails, blue states will have to be nullified. I promise you, I am not the only one with this plan. This conversation is likely being had across the entire country in Democrat-run states. Hopefully I answered this guy's question.
For Kamala Harris.
I think I have a pretty good answer to this question. I think this question was asked in good faith to some degree.
So maybe the question was asked in good faith, maybe bad faith, but your answer, unfortunately, was frankly ridiculous. It has a lot of holes in it, okay? Let's get to the first hole. This idea that we have to just survive until 2026 and elect as many Democrats as possible. The thing is, I would totally be like, okay, yeah, you're focused on electoral organizing. I'd be like, okay, great, do that, right? What exactly do you want the Democrats to do? Okay, because if you don't tell the people what the Democrats are going to do, then the Democrats that you're organizing for aren't going to get elected. Do you understand why we lost the last election? We lost the last election because it wasn't clear enough to the 350 million people in this country what Kamala Harris was actually going to do that was different enough from Joseph Biden and Donald Trump. So they either sat at home or they actively went out and voted for Donald Trump. And the people who voted for Kamala Harris because they are people like you who understand that Donald Trump is shitty. They understand he's horrible, right? But that's not enough to get the majority of people to vote for a candidate. Okay, I'm saying this as someone who's like looked through various elections in the 20th century up until 2025, right? Up until 2025, I've examined elections from the 1900s all the way to now, right? When a president, not just a president, when a political party wins an election, if it is a presidential election or a midterm election in the United States, it is usually because even if the people don't think that they're voting on policy, they are voting on something much more basic, which is something very, very distinct and different from the other guy. Okay, when people voted for Richard Nixon, they voted for Richard Nixon because they understood that they hated the counterculture of the hippies and the left, and they hated desegregation. They wanted something different. It's not just enough to say that they wanted racism. It's not just enough to say that they were racist. Yeah, they were, but they specifically wanted something different from the Democrats. Right? When Jimmy Carter won, it was because the American people wanted something distinctly different and not corrupt from the corruption of Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. Right? Do we understand that like FDR won 4 fucking elections because every single time that motherfucker ran, he was offering more and more and more and more. Even if he wasn't delivering on every single thing, even if he was literally interning Japanese Americans, even if he was helping build the atomic fucking bomb, he was offering something very clearly different from Hoover, very different from the pro-business Republicans. right? So you can say electoral organizing is your goal for the next 2 years, but unless you are very clear as to what it is you want the Democrats to do, then the Democrats you are organizing for are not going to win, okay? And now we come to your plan B. So you want the states with blue governors and blue legislatures to nullify, to secede from the union, right? Even if it will be challenged in court. And then what? Launch into a civil war? That's not voting your way out of fascism, dude. That's literally what the guy you're stitching was saying. You can't vote your way out of fascism. And also, you don't vote into nullification. That's not how secession works. That's not really a democratic process. That's not how that works. And also, it's not something that's sustainable. And you clearly said, oh, it would be challenged in the courts, right? So then if it's challenged in the courts, then these Democratic governors have two choices. Either to follow through on a civil fucking war, which again is not voting your way out of fascism, or to walk it back, which is what they've done every single fucking time since Donald Trump has come into office. So do you notice the flaws in your plan? Do you notice the flaws in your plan yet? Right? Listen, I have been a heavy advocate for voting my whole life, since before I was a citizen of this country. And since I became a citizen, I have voted in every single election, all the way from local to federal. I have voted. I have gotten my friends to vote. I have registered people to vote. I have canvassed for people, right? I have canvassed for progressive politicians. I believe that democracy, when actual democracy exists, it is a good thing. I think democracy is good. Sue me, right? If you don't like that, sorry, right? I think democracy is good. I don't think electoral politics is going to bring us to a revolution. I don't think electoral politics is going to end fascism, because again, these fascist institutions have existed under Democratic and Republican administrations for decades, dude. Okay, and we haven't voted our way out of it. Okay, we literally have something called the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, yet because of fascist institutions and anti-democratic institutions, those two acts have been gutted so that our democracy is basically non-fucking existent, right? So even if I am an advocate for voting, the biggest lesson I learned from the last election, the biggest lesson I learned from 2016 was that unless the voters actually understand what the candidate that they are expected to vote for is going to do for them that is different from the other guy, actually different, right? They're not going to vote for you, right? You can't just say, hey, I'm different than the other guy. How? Why? Right? So that's why when people who you hate, who are called like socialists, who you call socialists or leftists or communists or tankies or whatever the fuck, when they say, hey, condition your vote on abolishing ICE, condition your vote on Medicare for all, they're actually giving you a plan for better electoral organizing, because they are forcing you to emphasize that you are only going to focus and organize for candidates that are going to solve problems. Because if these candidates promise to solve problems, then they will win elections and then they can solve the problems. Right? So again, do you understand now why people who might consider themselves socialist or leftist don't really understand your video or don't really like your video? Because it has no substance, right? You can't just say we're going to organize for 2 years. Organize around what, dude? Around what? Right? So if you want to organize around something besides just candidates, right, you have to organize around policies. So when leftists or socialists or communists or whatever you want to call them tell you, hey, let's organize around abolishing ICE. Let's organize around defunding the police. Let's organize around abolishing rent. Let's organize around tenant coalitions. Let's organize around Medicare for all. Let's organize around ending a genocide. Right? You turn your nose up at them and suddenly you're confused as to why they don't want to fucking vote for the Democrat. Because there's no actual goal here. Your goal, your end goal is to get as many Democrats into office as possible. To do what, dude? To do what? Right? Getting enough Democrats into office doesn't end fascism if the Democrats in office don't want to destroy the fascist institutions. Right? You don't even have to do stuff that you think is like so radical and scary, like abolishing ICE. You could organize around ending Citizens United. That would unrig elections for decades to come. If we passed a constitutional amendment to get rid of Citizens United, or even got enough politicians to support packing the Supreme Court to overturn Citizens United, you could unrig elections away from Republicans for years, right? But again, that wouldn't solve the problem of core fascism if these Democrats that you get into office aren't actually solving other problems that are making fascism more prevalent in society, right? Like the cops that basically have no regulation whatsoever in whatever city they are in, like ICE, like insurance companies ripping people dry, bleeding people dry. Okay, so again, if you want to spend the next 2 years electoral organizing, more power to you. But again, you should probably focus on candidates that actually have solutions to the problems that the voters want solutions to. So the voters vote for the Democrats. And then you better have a way to hold those Democrats accountable so they actually solve those problems if they get into office. Because if they don't get into get into office, they're just going to lose their next election. And then the election after that, they're going to say, hey, we tried, but look at this other guy, he's ass, vote for me again. Do you see how we're in a fucking cycle? The same fucking cycle over and over and over again, right? So again, I'm really trying not to be mad. I'm really trying not to. I really am. This video is not a good example of that, right? But again, if you want to spend the rest of your life electoral organizing for Democrats, go ahead. But perhaps the Democrats could have actual policies that solve problems so they win elections.
This video is for anybody who considers themselves a liberal and is scared or terrified of fascism, okay? I have a very important message that you need to hear, okay? And I'm saying this message out of love and kindness and not out of judgment, okay? So if you get defensive, that's not my intention, okay? This is a serious message for you, but it's something you need to hear, okay? If you are truly afraid of fascism and you want to stop fascism, you have to let go of liberalism. You have to let go of the Democratic Party. Neoliberalism does not stop fascism. Historically, it does something even worse. It enables fascism, okay? And thinking that the Democratic Party, which is a neoliberal party, is going to save the country from fascism, you are wrong, okay? And the only thing that has proven to stop fascism is socialism, communism, the actual left wing of the political spectrum. Those people, the people who understand leftist theory, are the ones who can stop fascism. Okay, liberalism is a pro-capitalist ideology, and fascism is historically capitalism in decay. When the people who have all the wealth and power, when capitalism is failing, they turn to fascism because fascism keeps their capital intact. It's not a threat to them, while socialism is. Socialism is a direct threat to all of the wealth and power they have hoarded, okay? And so I know words like socialism and communism are scary because of American capitalist propaganda, okay? Especially the older you are, the harder it is going to be to convince you that socialism is the answer to getting rid of fascism, okay? However, read about it, okay? Read about political theory, political science, read history, okay? Particularly the history of the 20th century, because it's all incredibly important, okay? And if your knowledge of all these things just comes from your traditional American public school system, you don't have a good view of what the world is actually like. Your ideas of capitalism, socialism, fascism, communism are all, they're propagandized, okay? And so step one is to stop being afraid of the actual left and start reading about it, okay? And then helping other people understand what these things mean and spreading the knowledge, because if we continue on this trajectory where people are politically illiterate and propagandized, we are heading down that fascist world. Okay. But you have the power to stop it. Okay. Nothing is stopping you from educating yourself. Okay. Only you. The reading is there. The material is there. It's on the internet right now. Okay, you have the ability to educate yourself on these issues, to deprogram yourself from American capitalist propaganda. All you have to do is have an open mind. That's it. Okay, have an open mind, read as much as you can, educate yourself as much as you can, get as many viewpoints as you can. Okay, from everyone, because I'm not scared if you read more about fascism or if you read more about communism. If you have a heart, I know which one you're going to choose. Okay, I'm not scared about that. So educate yourself on the entire political spectrum. Stop being afraid of it. Stop thinking that other people are going to save you from your problems, because they're not. You have the power to be the change that you want to see in the world. Okay? And again, I say this with love and kindness. I'm not saying this out of judgment. And hopefully this helps. I'll make a video in the very near future with some resources that you can go to help educate yourself on these topics.
As Trump gets worse, you're going to hear the liberals get louder. And they're going to look like a solution. They are not. Liberalism is the reason we got here in the first place. It is not a solution. But the only way leftism and proper community building and mutual aid can be a viable solution is if we destroy the myths that the fucking CIA has built into us to destroy our class solidarity. And that's stupidly simple things. Like, for example, torrenting won't give you viruses typically. You need to do it safely, but it's typically pretty safe. Unions? They are effective and great for workers. Nonviolent protests have only worked when they have been paralleled by a violent resistance movement. From teeny things to massive things, we have been lied to, and those lies accumulate to make liberalism seem like a viable alternative to genuine revolutionary action. It's not.
This is all I got from this video. For those that will think this video is old, this video is not old. This video was done like a couple of days ago, right? So let's get into this video. What is the plan? What is the liberal plan to stop fascism? This man, this guy in Afro, I know him so well on this app, and he is anti-black. But that is not, I am not going to focus on that. Even I don't know if she's Palestinian. The woman that spoke, she also is a little bit lost. She said she has been voting for how many years? And she doesn't sound like someone that has been voting. But then let's break this down a little bit, right? Now, Kamala Harris, I understand that some people are always like, she ran a very bad campaign and all that. She was not able to tell us what she was going to do and this, da. Wait, were some people really deaf during the campaign period? I know she had a very short campaign period. Her period was very short, but she was able to speak what she wants to do and how she wants to deliver. Because why I'm saying this is because it's not because I am a black woman or an African woman, or maybe I support this and all that. No, I was also able to follow her campaign. I followed both parties, like, both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris campaign policies, manifestos, and all that. I followed all of them back to back because it was very vital to know what this person was going to do and to know what the other person was going to do. Now they are talking about fascism, right? Is it liberals that will go and save the fascism that is on ground now, or that everybody will look for a way, right, to get the person causing the fascism out of government? Because now some people make it look like it's a black thing or it's a liberal thing at this point in time. Ending fascism is everybody's duty. It is not one person's duty. It is not it is everybody's duty to end fascism. Right now, what they are pinning at right now is the fact that Kamala Harris did not say what she was going to do and what she wasn't going to do, except you guys were deaf and dumb, or sorry, blind and deaf. Kamala Harris was able to talk about how she wants to end, how she wants to, on her own, make Gaza a better place, and also stop the relationship, United States of America's relationship with Israel. It might not be 100%, but she had a plan. She had a plan. Right? And then you talk about tax and all that. Did she not have a plan? She also had a plan on how she does not want the poor to pay more tax. Why the rich people do not pay tax? Did you people not hear all that? Or maybe I am the one that heard everything and my ears are, I don't know. Did she not talk about how she was going to make people, make black men and other people too, like, have skills and also have a business, like you can, you can take a loan, right? That is forgivable. Did she not also say that? Maybe I am the one overreacting because I heard all that. Did she not also say that she wasn't only going to work for black, she was going to work for everybody, that everybody will benefit from her own regime, right? Then she talked about housing, talked about gouging. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe I am the one that is overreacting on. But all these things were the things that I heard that she mentioned that she was going to work on. And the petition was something she said that, no, that is not, I don't understand. Literally, everything she said was opposite of the other person's this thing. But you all voted for this man. And now you are asking, how did Libra wants to end fascism? Was it Libra that started fascism? Or were they the ones that are telling the one that is on that is like, presently the president, that he has to be fascist and all that? I don't know. Some people's mindset and thinking is just a little bit weird, but this is what it is, because sometimes when you're working with people, you definitely will see how badly their mindset is. And this man, I know where he is coming from, what he is trying to do. He is trying to make it Democrat problem. Because all this while, black people are the Democrats in their own words. And he actually voted for Stein. This young man, I don't know whoever, voted for Stein. See, it's really crazy how people that did not vote right, that voted for Stein, are out here telling you, how do you want to vote? How do you want to end fascism? And I am going to ask you, did Stein ever tell you that she was going to she was going to end fascism and all that? You all are so crazy. Why? Because you said that you understand American politics and all that, and this woman has been disappearing every year, every how many years, and comes back every how many years, and your mind did not tell you that she will never be the right candidate. Right? Because to me, a vote for Stein is a vote for Donald Trump. This is how I feel. If you check it, you absolutely will understand. You actually see, I don't know, United States had just only 2 candidates. That was just something that I'm going to tell you. They had only just 2 candidates. That was Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And you all flopped it. And you are saying it is because Kamala Harris said this and said that. I understood that you gave Joe Biden chance. He failed. Did Kamala Harris tell you that she was going to fail? See, guys, I don't want to argue with you people because at this point, I am not feeling my head. Bye for now.